My new trick now, like if I go out to a nightclub or something, I know this is an addiction show, so you can cut this if you want, but
Well,
these these are microdose for mushrooms. So
oh,
in
okay.
Mexico, they don't have the drug culture like the U.S. does. When I say drug, I mean legal drugs. So here, for example, if you go to a psychologist and you say, "Hey, you know, I'm like my grandma died and I'm having a hard time at work and I think my husband might leave me. What do I do?" They don't prescribe you SSRIs. They give you 0.25 milligrams a day. It's a 28-day treatment, and that cures
Huh.
depression. So
Whoa.
you have to
Okay.
remember, if you live in the U, if you're watching from the U.S., we have a very unhealthy drug culture in that country. Most other
Yeah.
countries don't have that. So in Mexico, in most countries, you have to remember here too, from the pre-Hispanic cultures, they're very in tune with those types of substances. You can get them readily here. No one takes like things like coke or MDMA or like ecstasy. Like you'll see them at the clubs,
Really?
but it's always kind
Okay.
of gritty. But
Yeah.
the smart people here, they do the more kind of like pre-Hispanic traditional. I call it medicine, plant medicine. So I've
Yeah.
noticed for me, if I want that social effect before I go out, I'll take a microdose, like 0.25 milligram dose. That's like a productivity dose that a lot of tech entrepreneurs use. So I'll do that a couple
Oh,
times a
wow.
week just for work, for productivity purposes. If I take
Okay.
two of those, it hits me equivalent to about like 3 or 4 drinks, but you have there's a little come up, and then you have the
Okay.
effect for a few hours. And then
Yeah.
at that point, as all my friends are getting drunk and dehydrated, I take
Mhm.
sugar-free Gatorade powdered packets. And same thing, I'll order mineral water, squeeze a
Mm.
lime into it, like put a little bit of the sugar-free electrolytes in there, and then just sip on that all night.
Nice.
So I still feel like I'm in that state, but again,
Yeah.
mushrooms, it's not enough to give you the visuals or anything, but
Okay.
you can feel that energy exchange, which is really what I'm all about. Alcohol doesn't allow you
Interesting.
to feel the energy exchange. It actually
Mm.
it numbs you to your external energy. Marijuana, depending upon how you do it, you can feel that transference of energy. But mushrooms, that's the way to go. Not that I'm promoting substances on your addiction channel, but the way I see it, and I've recommended this to guys that, for example, say they get in a car accident, they have like a really nasty dental procedure, and they get inadvertently addicted to opioids. I have
Mm.
recommended friends to wean themselves off the opioids, to start with weed, and then to get off the weed, to do the microdosing mushrooms. And again, in my private communities I belong to, that seems to be helping for a lot of guys. Eventually, you don't want to be beholden to anything. For me, I want my baseline to be crystal clear, but understand that we're not all perfect human beings,
Yeah.
and if you need to do something, there are substances that are better than other substances. Like methamphetamine is worse for you than microdosing mushrooms.
Yeah. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's a hierarchy
There.
in terms of risk and reward.
Have you done ashwagandha? Not ashwagandha.
Ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca. Yeah.
I haven't. So I haven't had like a trip in a long time. That's not really my focus now. I know that in my men's groups, there's guys, they do retreats, I think biannually. So I might jump on them one of these days. But for me, I take that really seriously. If I'm going to do an actual trip, I do the 5 day fasting, no alcohol, no caffeine, no nicotine, no
Oh,
red
wow.
meat. I do a lot of journaling beforehand. I write down my intentions, and I respect the plant medicine. I treat it very
Mm.
seriously. But in terms of microdosing, you don't get anywhere near to that point where you have the visuals or the out of body type experiences. It really just kind of heightens your senses. And then I've noticed it's almost like a refresh on your brain. Like
Mm.
it just makes you feel better. And I know that I think psychology in the U.S. is starting to get more into it in terms of using some of these substances for issues like depression, anxiety, any sort of mental type issues. And
Yeah.
from my self experimentation and anecdotal evidence from those around me that are getting more into that, it's certainly more beneficial from SSRIs. And I believe the research is starting to catch up, but it's still a ways away.
Interesting. Yeah, that'd be really interesting to try out. I've heard that it's really good for, I'm sure a lot of you have too, that it's good for like people that come back from war. They've started recommending it for people
It's
in the
fantastic for PTSD.
ex-military.
Yes.
Yeah. I kind of wish I would have tried that, to be honest, because I spent a lot of
Yeah.
years in therapy working through some of those issues. Um, Probably won't today, but who knows? Maybe something will happen, and it's nice to know that that's there and that's an option,
And it's starting to become
that it
more
works.
acceptable.